Greetings and welcome to Growth Hacking Show. I'm your host, Muhammad Siddique. And today we have a very special guest, President of North Idaho REA Real Estate Investment CDA Club, Nick Beveridge. Please join me to give a warm welcome to our guest, Nick. Nick, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Nick, let me start with this. Where were you? What happened? Who you were surrounded with that inspired you to get real estate investment?
I'm sorry, the connection just broke up there slightly. Can you repeat that?
Where were you? What happened? Who you were surrounded with that inspired you to get into real estate business?
Oh, okay. Well, I was inspired from a really young age. When I was just a kid, my dad sold real estate, and for fun, my family would just go look at houses when I was a kid on a regular basis. So that's how I kind of got interested. It's just something that I kind of figured I would always get into when I was older. And then I noticed when I was 17, 18 years old, my mother, I saw her work for a full year, and at her job, she only made, I think, $12,000. But that year that I was with her, she had bought and sold a house within a year and a half or so, and made like $80,000 on the house.
Yeah.
So at that age, I just figured maybe getting a job isn't the best idea if I want to make some serious money one day, and I should just focus on real estate and get into it somehow. And at the time, I thought you just buy and sell houses, but there was more to it than that.
So are you a full-time real estate investor? Or you also do, I understand that you are an associate broker as well. So you're doing full-time, more focus is 50-50 or more time?
Yeah. I'm kind of like a serial entrepreneur. I spend about 20, maybe 25% of my time in the real estate sales world. And I manage a team of agents.
Yeah.
We've got about 6 people that work with us. We have 2 licensed admin and 4 agents that just focus on sales. I more just try to bring in leads, encourage people. I do coaching. I meet with wholesalers. Those are kind of my bread and butter clients. I deal with wholesalers.
Mhm.
And then I spend about another maybe 35% of my time on my personal investments. I've got, I think 11 deals going on right now. A couple of bigger rehabs, 6 new construction spec homes, and a couple on the pipeline under contract that I'll be doing, like the BRRRR strategy, and keeping those as rentals instead of flipping those houses. And then I also run I started about a year ago a media company for real estate agents to use us for their real estate listing photos and videos. So I have a couple employees that pretty much run that whole show. And we spent probably the first 6 months just getting clients. And now it's at a point where it's pretty much just barely profitable. But if we can just get a few more bookings on an average basis someday, I feel like that company is going to do really well long term. So and then I've got some other projects I'm working on. We do some private money lending, and some other like Airbnbs that I've been invested in, and that's about it. I think that usually fills my day up.
No, that's a true serial entrepreneur. You are everywhere,
All over the place, yeah.
Thank you. So share with us like a one deal of the decade thing, so which really got, for very little you get made the huge. Then I'm going to ask the reverse question later.
So share like what my day looks like?
The deal of the decade, like once in a while you get the best deal, and you wish you would get this one every month at least,
Yeah. Like I have. You want me to go over a really good deal that I just got? Is that what you mean?
Yes, just one deal, like the best one, which we're really proud of, that you really made the most from that deal.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So let's see. I would say this. I put a deal together a couple of years ago. That's it's just a cash flow machine right now. I bought this house in Coeur d'Alene. That was a single family home, and I spent about 1 year converting it into a fourplex. I spent, it was very frustrating too. It was a very long process.
Yeah.
I got most of the project covered with hard money.
Yeah.
And I went about $110,000 over budget on repairs. So I thought I was going to lose badly. But I ended up getting almost double the rent on each unit that I thought I might get, just because we ended up doing a really nice quality job on the renovation. But on that property, I think I was all in with repairs and the purchase around around 280,000 or so, if I remember correctly. And that thing generates a little over $4,000 a month in cash flow. Or sorry, not cash flow, gross income. I cash flow after the after the monthly payment and utilities and all. I get about $2,000 a month. When I refinanced that property, though, I got all my cash back. So when I went over budget by 110,000, I was able to get 20,000 from my lender, and I had to bring in over time 90,000 of my own money. But when I went to refinance it, and it appraised for just enough for me to pay off my hard money loans and for me to get $91,000 back. So I got all my money back plus $1,000, and it's been producing for the last little over a year an extra $2,000 a month in cash flow.
Yeah, that's nice.
So
yeah, at the end of the year, you have virtually zero in.
Yeah, yeah. Well, once I made $1,000 in profit, and now it's $2,000 every single month, and there's $130,000 in equity.
Yeah, no, this is good. So, you are a serial investor and a business owner. Where you kind of wear many hats. So, what are the top 3 success strategies you would share with someone who is doing a real estate business that they can use it and effectively learn from your experience?
Well, I would say, without question, you just got to do a deal first. Fix and flip a home, or fix it up and rent it out. You got to get your feet wet with something, and then once you've done one deal, I think it's appropriate to start an investment club, some sort of networking event where you can not only just network with all these contractors and money lenders, other investors that may bring you deals, wholesalers, real estate agents. I mean, when you open the doors up to the public to network with real estate investments, or when you want to talk real estate investments, as long as you're on all the right websites and you do a good job of trying to retain those people's information and putting them on an email list and then inviting them again the next month and the next month, you could build up quite a big lead source that's free. So I guess number one, just do a deal somehow. Number 2, build up some sort of lead source for free that doesn't cost much. And then, of course, being a real estate agent really helps because you have the option to help investors buy and sell properties and make commissions, or you can just be your own. You can be your best client, and you can still make a commission every time you buy a house and sell a house, and it's just an added source of income. So I would top 3 things: do a deal, start a networking event, and get your license.
Yeah, that's good. So being a realtor at the same time being an investor, it helps you to actually make more money. That's what you're saying?
It just opens up the doors for you to be able to help almost any seller. Because if you're just a real estate investor, you can probably help like 1 in 10 sellers. If you're a real estate investor and you have your license, you can help like 10 out of 10 sellers. You know what I mean? Because then you can just help them list their property for sale. Or you can refer them to the right agent. That maybe if you're not a listing agent, you can still make money with them referring them to the right agent, and then you can make a legal referral fee where you can help, buy their house.
Wonderful. Let's talk about your REIA club. So tell us more. How many members you got, and what type of deals they are doing with what's the main focuses of the investments of your REIA club?
Yeah. So we meet once a month at the Keller Williams Realty office in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho at 6:30 p.m. the first Thursday of each month. I've been doing that consistently for going on 6 years now, every month.
Mhm.
We only shut down 1 month due to when COVID started.
Mhm.
And so with that, people come in, there's no membership fees. You just got to sign in, and we'll do networking for the first maybe 15 minutes, and then we'll take turns doing introductions. I'll get people caught up on what's going on in our local market. So I'll show the data from the last 6 months of what's been happening with active pendings and closed
That's
sales.
valuable.
Yeah. And then sometimes we'll have a guest speaker on some topic in real estate. Or if we don't have a guest speaker, I might go over some deal I've been doing recently and do like a case study on just showing an interesting, creative way to buy a house. Because almost every real estate deal I do is somewhat creative. I rarely just buy a house and put 20% down, and just leave it and give it to a property manager and just be done with it. You know, I'm not rich, not yet anyway. So I've got to figure out a way to buy a property with very little money down and make it totally make sense for everyone to be involved. So I'll usually go over a case study if we don't have a guest speaker, and then we'll have plenty of time for networking when that person's done speaking for probably a good hour or so. People can just hang out and get to know each other. And
many people show up when you do the events?
Yeah, so people, I would say like a minimum of maybe 25 people on, and then more lately, the last couple of years, we've had almost 50 people show up on a regular basis.
And typically, how many people are actually doing deals? You know, you said that do the deal anyway. So how many people are actually doing the deals? Because mostly people are just want to know, but they never really pull the plug, you know?
Yeah, you know, when I first started this networking event, I would say probably maybe only 1/4 of the people in the room were actually doing real estate deals. And that's kind of turned over the time. I feel like maybe only 1/4 haven't done a deal yet. So
Big
a
progress.
good amount of people, a good amount of people are really actually doing deals that show up to these events.
No, that's good. So for after 4, 5, 6 years, you change from 25% to 75%. That's a 3 time.
If I had to guess, yeah, I haven't actually run the statistics, but if I was just going with my gut.
It's like a feel, you know, how so now you really like sharing the practical what's happening, where you can learn from them too, because they are sharing something what they have done on their own. So everyone can learn from each other.
Yeah, and a lot of people are regulars now. I would say almost, you know, probably the majority of the people that show up have been there before. And it's nice to know that almost regularly you can meet people. Almost everybody that you need to meet is there in that room to do a real estate deal. You know, you can find a wholesaler in the room that might have a deal available. There's usually a private money lender in the room somewhere that can give you the money for it. There's usually a contractor in the room that you can give the job to. And then I'm your agent. I can help you sell that deal when it's done. You know.
That's good. That's good. So Nick, I'm going to ask one tough question. Here you go. As being a serial entrepreneur in a real estate business, what's your single most professional failure you had in your life? Because we all get a good deals and we get a very bad deals where you lose so much.
Yeah.
And what did you learn from that worst deal, and how did you recover from that?
You know what? I would say the very first deal I did when I was very young, I kind of learned very early. You can't just buy a house and expect to make money. So that was probably my biggest failure was, 15 years ago. Sorry, maybe it wasn't that long, 12 years ago or so. I bought a house in a bad location because it was the only house in my budget that I could get approved for at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't run any numbers on what could this house rent for. I just figured I would just buy it and move out of it and rent it out. I didn't even know what kind of mortgage situation I was getting myself into. When I bought this house, I spent like a year and a half fixing it up because I didn't have the reserves to even fix it up. I was just gonna go move over there, work a job, and and it somewhat worked out. I was able to get it fixed up. And then when I moved out of it, the economy tanked. 2008 happened.
Yeah.
And in that particular town, all the jobs pretty much went away. So it almost went 1 year being vacant. And when it finally got rented out, it was negative cash flowing like $300 a month. So that was probably my biggest failure, was just not doing any due diligence whatsoever and just getting excited for the possibility of just, because all I knew before that, I saw my parents, they would buy a house, live in it for a while, they move out and make money. And I just had it in my head growing up that the economy or the housing economy just always goes up. That's not the case. So that was probably my biggest failure. And then the only other deal I lost money on recently was maybe.
How did you recover from that then? From how did you recover from that?
Oh, it took a while. I ended up, at the time, I moved to Florida, and this was house I bought here in Idaho, and I started having seizures, and and then all of a sudden I couldn't work because I was having seizures, and I was a lifeguard at the time, and I couldn't come to work anymore, so all the income went away, and I was negative cash flowing on this property. So eventually I had to do a deed in lieu of foreclosure, and I had to ruin my credit, of course. I didn't have any insurance, no backup plans, and I had to just pull myself out of that, and it took almost 4 years or so until I had the credit and the confidence again to start fresh.
So what's the lesson for people who are watching this from that deal? What they should not do so they can learn from this,
I would say use a rental analysis calculator online before you just go buy something.
Yeah.
Have some sort of extra money on the side for when things go wrong. Having a reserve. I think you should always try to find a deal to where you can get into it with very little of your own money, but you should still have a savings for when things go wrong.
Yeah. So do your homework properly. That's the key. Otherwise,
do your homework.
4 years,
Yeah. And if you can't do the homework, ask somebody. It always helps to just call property managers, call real estate agents, and just get some expert opinions on what could a house rent for, what could a house be worth after you do certain fix-ups, those kind of things. All the basics that today I don't even think of, because it's just like a natural response when I'm doing a deal. But when you're very fresh, you just you don't think about those kind of things.
Yeah,
at least I didn't.
That's called experience, It becomes almost second nature. You do it every time,
Yeah.
As we are about to wrap up, Nick, what would you say as the final word?
What's the final word?
Yeah.
Well, like a last piece of advice, or let's see, is your audience mostly newer or seasoned investors, or?
It's all about everyone.
Boy, I would I would really look how your local market, figure out what you want to do. Okay, one of the biggest regrets I guess I had, I flipped a lot of homes a few years ago, fixed and flipped, that if I would have figured out a way just to keep them as rentals, I would definitely be a millionaire today. But I decided to flip them instead of keep them as rentals. So now the majority of the houses I buy, I try to keep as rentals and try to figure out a way to buy it low enough to get a renovation in and do the BRRRR strategy, where you buy, you renovate, you rent out, you refinance it, and you repeat the process. I found life to be so much more easier to put deals together when you have rental income coming in consistently, and they're recently remodeled homes. I mean, when you flip a house, you're going to get cash, and what are you going to do with the cash? You're going to go buy more houses anyway, right? Ideally, or just pay your bills. But that was probably my biggest thing that I learned over time, was fixing and flipping a house sounds good, and it sounds like a great way to make some cash, but it's also I think it was one of the biggest mistakes is letting go of a lot of properties that, you know, I can probably easily retire today if I would have just sat on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great advice. Flipping is great in a start. However, you want to transition into buy and hold as soon as you can, so that way you keep building wealth and cash flow. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Nick Beveridge, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time coming on a growth hacking show. On the behalf of Growth Hacking Show and our entire team, we really appreciate you. And this is Muhammad Siddique signing off from Atlanta, Georgia. All good wishes.
All right. Thanks for having me.